Join me as I dive deep into Matthew 23:27-32 and challenge myself to live by these powerful words for an entire week. Today, I want to share with you some profound words from Matthew 23:27-32 that I believe have the power to transform our lives in a significant way. These verses speak directly to the human tendency to focus on appearances rather than substance, and I think it's essential that we take a closer look at what Jesus is saying here. We've all been there, posting perfect selfies on social media, trying to keep up with the latest fashion trends, or simply pretending to be someone we're not. But the truth is, living a life focused on appearances rather than substance is exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling. It's like trying to build a castle on shifting sand. It might look impressive from the outside, but it's not going to last. When we focus on appearances, we risk losing sight of what truly matters, and we can end up feeling empty and unfulfilled. Authenticity is a rare commodity in today's world, and it's something that I think we all crave. We want to be around people who are real, who are genuine, and who aren't trying to manipulate us or pretend to be someone they're not. But authenticity is hard work. It requires us to be vulnerable, to take risks, and to be willing to look foolish or make mistakes. It's much easier to just put on a mask and pretend to be someone we're not, but in the end, that's just a recipe for disaster. When we focus on appearances rather than substance, we risk becoming like the Pharisees in Jesus' time, people who were more concerned with looking good on the outside than with being good on the inside. They were experts at following rules and regulations, but they had lost sight of the heart of God. And that's exactly what Jesus is warning us against in these verses. The Pharisees were like whitewashed tombs. They looked beautiful on the outside, but inside, they were full of dead men's bones. They had no life, no substance, no authenticity. And that's what happens when we focus on appearances rather than substance. We become empty, hollow shells of people who are just going through the motions. But it doesn't have to be that way. In these verses, Jesus is telling us that true greatness comes not from our appearance or our accomplishments, but from our character. It's the inside that counts, not the outside. It's the heart that matters, not the exterior. And it's only when we focus on building our character, on becoming more like Jesus, that we'll find true fulfillment and purpose. One of the most challenging things about living a life of authenticity is that it requires us to be honest with ourselves. It requires us to take a hard look at our motives, our actions, and our priorities. It requires us to ask ourselves some tough questions, like why am I really doing this? Or what's driving my behavior? And it requires us to be willing to make changes when we realize that we're not living up to our own standards. But the reward is worth it. When we live a life of authenticity, we'll find that we're no longer driven by the need for approval or acceptance. We'll no longer be controlled by our fear of what others think of us. We'll be free to be ourselves, to live life on our own terms, and to pursue our passions and dreams with reckless abandon. And that's when the magic happens. One of the most powerful takeaways from these verses is the understanding that true fulfillment comes from aligning our actions with our beliefs. When what we say and what we do are in harmony, we'll find a sense of peace and purpose that we've never known before. But when there's a disconnect between our words and our actions, we'll feel frustrated, guilty, and unfulfilled. So, let's make a conscious effort to close the gap between our values and our behavior. Let's be honest with ourselves. Are there areas in our lives where we're saying one thing but doing another? Are there places where we're pretending to be someone we're not, or where we're trying to manipulate others to get what we want? Let's take a hard look at our lives and identify the areas where we need to make a change. And then, Let's take action. Let's start living a life that's authentic, genuine, and true to who we are. Today, I want to leave you with a challenge. Take these verses to heart, and ask yourself how you can apply them to your life. How can you live more authentically, more genuinely, and more truly? How can you close the gap between your words and your actions? And how can you live a life that's driven by your character, not just your appearance? Thank you for joining me on this journey into Matthew 23:27-32. If you have any thoughts or insights on this powerful passage of Scripture, please share them with me in the comments below. And don't forget to tune in next week, when we'll be exploring what it means to live a life of purpose and meaning. Please like, share and subscribe.